Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
16. Play co-op. Again, I guess.
Again. I don't know, there's more zombies. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Franchise Unpacked. This is Dave.
And this is Zach.
We are here again. Funny little story for everybody. This is the second episode we've recorded this week.
Yep.
We had a little bit of some technical difficulties a couple days ago.
Yeah, which is super unfortunate because that was a really fun episode.
We had a guest on. We won't get too much into it, but we will be having him back. Jijan is more than willing to come back. He's very happy to.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We are extremely thankful for that fact. But
yeah, we wanted to let you guys know because we obviously aren't doing Fallout this week.
We're going to switch it up. Yeah, I know we announced it. But we want to save Fallout for Jijan because he is such a super fan, and it's a great episode.
Yeah,
so
he knew so much too, which was awesome.
It was awesome.
But yeah, it was funny because I was editing the audio for it, and I told Dave this, but I was editing the audio and I was going through, and the whole first half of the episode sounded great, and I mean I had to sync it up a little bit, but I was like, yeah, this sounds perfect. And then the back half of the episode, I started hearing these little like click, click, like almost like a pop over top of his audio, and it was once every couple of seconds, and I was like, whatever, it's a weird glitch. I thought maybe he was like tapping something on the table. And then as time went on, it got more and more frequent, and by the end it was like it was just like rapid fire. Hell? Yeah, it sounded
weird.
It sounded crazy.
That's weird. But so we're gonna save Fallout for a few weeks down the road.
So surprise!
Yes,
this week is Resident Evil.
We're doing Resident Evil. You clicked on the button already.
Yeah,
but and it's funny because this was one we've had. We had kind of done a pre-recording of some Resident Evil sort of outtakes almost. We were just kind of like messing around, seeing if we could get a second episode recorded.
And it was so funny because that day we were both just so slammed tired that the episode ended up being like 25 minutes or something like that.
This isn't. And it wasn't there were a lot of breaks and stuff. But we were like, you know what? We've got to come back to it. It's one of my favorites. And I've had a lot of fun with it, especially recently. But yeah, we will get into it.
I think I'm probably most excited for the present and the future of this franchise.
Oh, sure.
Not that I want to gloss over or blaze through the past side of it, but man, there's so many cool things happening with it right now.
There's some neat stuff going on.
That is just awesome. So I know that you have a little bit of a timeline. So what we thought we would do is we'll start off and we'll just, kind of go through the chronology. The chronology of these games and just kind of see where it started off.
Yeah, well, I doing my research. In 1996, the first Resident Evil game came out.
Yeah,
and it was considered to be it kind of coined the term survival horror.
Right. Well, there was what was the other game? Alone in the Dark. Which did inspire, because I remember Resident Evil 1 was originally conceived to be a first-person shooter.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how they had it set up, and I mean, who knows how good it would have played out? Because I mean, that was. That might have been. I think that was pre-GoldenEye.
Oh, it was pre-GoldenEye. I mean, it was they were just getting into 3D in '96,
and so they. The way that they had it set up, I guess, is they had it set up as an FPS, and then they changed it because of the success of Alone in the Dark.
Because it, and even as an FPS, especially nowadays, there's scary stuff, but it's a lot of popping out at you. I don't think they would have been able to nearly make it as creepy as it was with being as dated as it was. They stretched the style to the limit, on PlayStation 1 to frighten you.
And to give credit where credit is due, it was created by Shinji Mikami.
Yes.
Which I think is one of my favorite names in history.
That's an awesome name.
Shinji Mikami.
That's awesome.
But I think that they made a good choice I don't think they copied Alone in the Dark, but they made it sort of the tank controls, and having the camera be locked up in the corner like that. I don't know that Alone in the Dark even really did that. I haven't played Alone in the Dark.
I couldn't recall,
but I've seen some clips. But I know that Resident Evil, I think, was the first one to really stick to that and make it such a huge part of the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. It was almost like you were watching your character on a security camera or something.
Sure. And exactly. And we'll lead into more because the camera has changed over the years.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But it is still as frighteningly restricting
Yeah,
as you need
yeah.
it to be, even though it is far more maneuverable and a little more graceful, I
Right.
guess you would say. But that kind of leads me to another Capcom game. Capcom makes Resident Evil, and they eventually produced Devil May Cry series. And the first couple of those had the same, so that fixed camera, and it does... It makes it a challenge for you, not only like a frightening challenge, you might not be able to see what's coming from behind the camera, literally, but as a player, you're putting you see your character in the space. You have to keep, it's almost like spatial awareness and depth perception.
Well, and speaking of Devil May Cry, and I'm not sure if you knew this, Resident Evil 4 was originally, that was kind of what spawned Devil May Cry. They had it set up to play like you were running through and dashing and jumping.
Wasn't it supposed to be a PS2, not Devil May Cry, but the Resident Evil game that inspired Devil May Cry was supposed to be a launch title, I think, and they had to like backtrack it into Devil May Cry.
I just know that when they were making it, so they had these mechanics where Leon could run and jump and fight like crazy, and they decided, they were like, you know what, this is too far. This is too big of a deviation from our series. Yeah, and they wanted to keep sort of that horror aspect.
Yeah.
And I mean, 4 is probably my favorite game in the franchise. We'll get more on that in a minute, but yeah, so they loved the feel of that fast-paced movement, and so they were like, well, let's just make this new game. That's why the main character in Devil May Cry looks so much like Leon.
Leon Kennedy. But in Devil May Cry as well, they do such an amazing job of the frightening setting, like they do in Resident Evil as well. But I realize you become less and less scared as that game goes, because as you get more powerful, you are literally a demigod. Right. You're a half demon. And it's like, well, it's like if you're playing a ghost game and I'm also a ghost, it's like, this isn't as scary.
Not so bad. These are my peeps.
With Resident Evil, these are mostly 95% of the time you're playing as a human character or someone. If they are altered, it's not affecting your gameplay.
So let's talk more about the build up to Resident Evil 4.
We should actually discuss a little bit right before we get really into the build up. For those of you who don't know, Resident Evil zombies. Usually it's a survival game like we take place or like we mentioned earlier, and it's there's this umbrella corporation,
and they kind of created this T virus.
It's a pharmaceuticals company that they're like, oh, we're curing stuff, and things go awry. Right. So there's the setting. It's in a place called Raccoon City.
And they're known for their bad voice acting. That's bad voice.
Well, that's the thing too. It's a Capcom game. So all of the acting and cutscenes are extremely over the top. It's like you're watching an anime. It really is. Even the art style, everything looks like an anime. Well,
there's that classic, almost like the meme line of like, you were almost a Jill sandwich, Jill gets crushed. It's
really
like, oh boy, here we go.
It was the same thing too. Did you ever play, what's the game where you're in the mall and there's the zombies?
Dead Rising?
Is it Dead Rising?
Dead Rising. Yeah.
It also extremely corn-tastic. Capcom.
But they knew that they were corny at that. But
it was like the state of emergency to Grand Theft Auto. Like the silly rampage.
Was it State of Emergency or was it Saints Row?
Well, Saints Row was like the exact clone. State of Emergency was just rampage mode.
Okay.
It was like you would go into a mall and shoot everybody.
Oh,
so real dark.
Stuff that would not hold up today.
They took rampage mode from GTA and they're like, let's make a whole game out of that. Yeah. But anyway.
So they had the first game, and then they actually had... Basically, they were calling it like Resident Evil 1.5, and that got scrapped. And I think it got turned into another game later down the line. I forget which game it got turned into, but when
you start doing 1 points, it really kills me. Like Kingdom Hearts, I want to jump off of a building.
And for anybody that's listening, please ignore our episode 7.5.
Yes, no, those are mini episodes, and we label them such. They're not a full episode,
right?
But when you give me a full game that's 1.5, I'm like, and you're making me pay $60 for it. I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly.
Just name it 2. You can pull the wool over my eyes.
Right. And I think that was one of those things where they were in development of 2, and they wanted to release something still, and I
probably need a little money.
It's been a long time since I've played the second one, but in the second one you have Mr. X following you around, and
now as a lot of people might be like, well, you say number 2 that is currently has been re-released this year.
Which we'll talk about the re-release in a minute.
Full redux of it. It's beautiful looking
and terrifying.
Mr. X is even scarier.
I haven't been able to play it personally, but I've watched a lot of gameplay of it, and we'll get to that because I want to talk about the things that they changed and updated in that remake.
Sure.
But the second one was good though. The third one, what year was the third one? I can't remember offhand.
The third one, Nemesis is 99.
Okay, I was going to say 98. 3. I was close.
Yeah, 2. Well, Mr. X was fun too. Was Nemesis almost like a take on that? Because the Nemesis himself is like another giant monster kind of following you around.
Yeah, well,
Mr. X is scarier.
He's so deformed. See, I think Nemesis was scarier because Nemesis just popped up anywhere.
More powerful looking.
Yeah.
That's true. Mr. X, though, I like the idea. It was like, oh, you're just hanging out in this house and he can kind of fit in places. Like you open the door and he's there to punch you in the face.
Yeah. Well, and Nemesis was, whatever experiment gone wrong. And, he pops out and he only has the one saying the stairs.
Yeah.
But I remember the thing with Nemesis that was so appealing to me. First of all, I will say there was one puzzle it's like a randomized puzzle, so there's no walkthrough for it, and it's so hard. It's notorious. I forget even what it's called, but man, that was the one thing about that game I couldn't stand. But my buddy and I played through the third one, and spoiler alert, you kind of need the rocket launcher at the end.
Oh, to beat Nemesis, I think it's required.
And we didn't have it. We actually traded it for something, and we were like, well, we'll go back and get it. But like a wall collapsed, and we couldn't go back. I was like, well,
most of those games aren't. Those older games aren't open like that, regrettably. Yeah, and then after Nemesis came out, once 2000 came around, they started releasing multiple a year, where it was like Resident Evil Survivor, there's Code Veronica, Survivor 2 Code Veronica. Gaiden, which is like Ninja Gaiden. Then there's the Resident Evil remake, Resident Evil 0. There was the Dead Aim game, which was like, I believe, like
an on-rails.
Like arcade shooter style.
Well, didn't they remake the first one like 6 times by now? It's like
I think so, yeah.
Re-release and the HD remake and then the HHD remake.
All Code Veronica remake. Then our favorite. In 2005, Resident Evil 4 came out. I had it for GameCube.
Me too.
The game collector's
the 2 disc.
Yeah.
My proudest achievement is that I was able to make it through the first disc in under 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
That was like my speed run. And there are people out there who can beat the game in like less than an hour.
It's
insane. I think it's that. I'm actually curious. I rarely do I have my computer like with me, but I want to look up what the speed run time is for Resident Evil 4.
But for Resident Evil 4, it was one of my favorites. It kind of took you into this whole new setting. You were in a foreign country. You're looking for the president's kidnapped daughter. There's the new virus that has been developed. It's not just turns people into zombies. The Ouroboros disease virus. It infects you. You do become a mindless zombie, but then it grows inside of you, becoming like a Chiluthu tentacle beast.
Yeah, and
it becomes super scary.
And those things are terrifying. And it's kind of cool because they prompt you to sort of, go for the headshots, go for all that.
And that works at first.
Yeah, but then they also sort of teach you along the way, like, hey, if you use a flashbang, then you're going to take care of those tentacle creatures, like things that you wouldn't expect, Also, side note, Resident Evil speedrun, it looks like an hour and 25 minutes.
I believe it.
Which is just insane. That's
bonkers.
That's a big game.
And with it almost reminded me, I loved 4 because that same sort of thing, it reminded me of, if you ever seen The Thing. Kurt Russell. Yeah. So it's that thing that the Thing body snatches and is a monster, whereas this takes over, but it's still like a tentacle parasite growing inside of you. Yeah. And it was and as you progressed, obviously those monsters would get harder and harder, and bigger and nastier. You'd kill a first level monster, and then you burst into that. So it was
and they did something really unique, and it's the first time that I had seen it in a game where they throw you into the fire immediately. Like before the Resident Evil 4 title sequence even comes up, you have to fight a village full of these things. And it's hard. It's not like a cakewalk. You don't have any ammo. There's a chainsaw guy. Like,
I love seeing a cold open in a game before the title card because you're like, this is what the demo was.
Yeah.
And then you're like, now I keep playing. But it was just so cool. And then there were the scariest thing were the chainsaw guys to me. They looked like Leatherface. They had the burlap sack on their head.
Yeah.
You'd hear the and then they'd out it. You wouldn't see them. They could be coming from across the area map.
They were scary, but for me it was the blind creatures.
Oh,
do you remember those? Like you had
that
to,
like fuzzy sort of thing.
No, they
had
had
moss.
Oh, those were terrible.
That was in like the military complex.
Those were scarier actually. The regenerators,
We had to get the X-ray gun to shoot.
Yeah, those actually probably are the most terrifying. But the blind ones that had like those sharp like Wolverine claws, and you had to shoot the bells and distract them.
Yes, I remember that.
That game had such a cool host of enemies to fight, and they all needed something different, which is something that you don't see a lot.
I think that's where Devil May Cry helped this series out. Devil May Cry came out in the early 2000s. Then by 2005, we have RE4, and they had changed the scenery. The whole set design of it really reminded me of, it was that dark European castles and manors. Very much Devil May Cry. And then also just that the creatures and the monsters. Now it was because in the previous Resident Evil games, maybe that's what kind of took me out of them. I didn't get really back into it till 4. It was because you had zombies, hellhounds, which are just zombie dogs.
Right.
Nothing special about that. But then you have a nemesis, or you have this huge licker, which we'll get into when we talk about the movies, which we kind of can, because right now is when they really started. The Mila Jovovich, the whole film series. I like the first one. The
first one was solid.
It does an okay job.
After that, it
gets wonky. Well, they start going in, they push into how many powers she has. Right. And how Albert Wesker, who is the leader of Umbrella Corp, he's also powerful. And it's just, it becomes weird superhero movies and not just zombie movies. And then the whole zombie genre has been completely butchered.
It's been done to death now. I mean, it's been done too much. But yeah,
with and I remember that the CGI was so bad.
Oh yeah, it was awful.
The whole movie's great, and then the liquor gets released at the very end.
I so vaguely remember
the liquor. It's that big thing that clambers around. And it's got a big ass tongue.
Yeah.
It just little whips around, and it's got claws. And there was that room they were in where there were all the pods with all different like experiments,
right?
And stuff like that. But up until that point, you're like, okay, normal zombies, hellhounds, and then a big monster. And I'm like, this kind of looks corny.
Right.
A little bit. But then with the newer ones, they build you up to it. There's small guys, big guys, medium guys.
Right.
Then the bosses are crazy.
Well, and they make it so that it's not just a go in and wail on the enemy type situation. Like you have to figure out the enemy's weak point and the unique way to beat it. And
you don't have much ammo.
Right. And once they get you there, they put you in situations where, okay, well now you have 2 or 3 types of enemies in one room. What's your strategy? It became a real-time puzzle against the enemies, and that's something that I think 4 just knocked out of the park.
Having a great puzzles where there were no enemies around, like not insane. Like the one you mentioned, there was some difficult puzzles, but like it really like kind of helped you through it. The boss fights were awesome. I remember the boat boss fight when you fight the giant zombie fish.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
You're out in the middle of this foggy lake. You can't see. You don't know how you're in the middle of it, and it's so foggy you can't see the edge anymore.
Right.
So you're being dragged around by this giant zombie fish.
And then you have the fight with Krauser.
Yeah,
when you're running through like that, like desert. Like military complex almost, and
on that island.
That was
so
fight.
Cool. That whole island was the second disc is very difficult.
And then they give you assignment Ada. You know what I mean? You go through that military complex island as Ada, and you get the different weapons, and you get. It's almost like a whole new experience that you're playing through with this new character.
It's cool because you were able to play it from like if I recall, kind of backwards too. You're not playing the same map. The same way? It's
the same map. I think there were small differences. Yeah.
Maybe,
it's been so long since I played Assignment Ada. And then the Mercenaries mode, obviously, which was huge.
Yeah. And then we got into 5, which is a great looking sequel. It looks beautiful.
I enjoyed 5. It gets a lot of flack.
It does. It gets a lot of flack from me because of the AI mechanics of your
They
co-op.
were awful.
They forced you into a co-op hand, and like if I'm gonna play a game, for instance, when you could play Perfect Dark for Nintendo 64, Perfect Dark, you could play that either single player or co-op. Nothing changed. If you were single player, the game does not. The puzzles are still the same. You can complete them single player. If you want to play multiplayer, you can.
Right.
I say don't force an AI NPC when you don't have a friend to play with, especially in a game where it's PS3 now. The whole game is faster.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it looks great. It runs faster, and the action's faster. And if I can't rely on my teammate to be as nearly as good as me, I had the hardest time with that game. especially near the end. It was.
I
just
had an
very
okay time
annoying.
with 5. I dropped off at 6. 6
I don't
was.
even know if I played 6.
It was trash.
Is that where they had the multiple characters? And
Yeah, you could play as multiple characters.
Your Leon was back. I remember.
And everything just felt like it felt like they took. It felt like they gave a level designer for Resident Evil. Like they gave that to a class of 6th graders and said, make your scariest game. It didn't, and maybe that's a harsh judgment, but it just felt so thrown together. It felt like it was their first project.
Well, I got a question for you because after 6, they went to 7, which was there were a couple.
It was a few years later,
but
right?
Actually, it's about 5 years later, but they started developing I'm wondering if they started into development of virtual reality.
Oh, yeah.
For 7, because 7, well, there was a couple year break after 6. So I'm wondering if they were like, we need to overhaul this. There was literally a almost 3-year break before Resident Evil Revelations 2 came out.
Well, and I think they saw how poorly it performed.
And then they released that Umbrella Corps game, which was just like a first person Counter-Strike. Or not first person, but it was like an action.
I didn't even
You
see
were
that.
part of the Umbrella Corps, I think. And so.
Eh.
But yeah, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
So, yeah, kind of getting into the present
phenomenal.
of the franchise. Yeah.
I have PSVR.
I wouldn't be able to play it. I couldn't do it on VR.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, I was able to, and I had it back when I was still working in the restaurant, and my wife, had just gotten her hygiene license, so she was working days, and I would work nights.
Right.
So I would be home and wanting to play it so bad.
Yeah.
And I put on my VR headset and my dog Castor's running around. Middle of the day, I'm alone. About 15, 20 minutes in, every time I started playing alone, I'd have to stop. It was
I'm sure.
so frightening, so
I'm
scary.
sure, yeah.
And then my dog would run by and I would know that would scare the hell out of me.
Yeah,
even worse.
absolutely.
And I told my wife, I was like, I can only play this when you're around.
During that like intro sequence where Jack's chasing around the house.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
My hands were sweating.
That took me like an hour, first of all.
Same.
In VR, too, when you're getting used to that, I didn't know everything you could look at. It was a out of the frying pan sort of situation.
You can't take him down. It's like you need to find a clever way to run and hide while you find that key, and
It was an awesome, that first part, I think, was an awesome throwback to Resident Evil 1. The very first game. It was, you can't take anything down, even if you do have a weapon. But the main part of this is to run away from the enemy until you find a key to get into another area where you might find a gun.
The one problem that I did have with RE7, which also random other fun fact, originally the series is called Biohazard. Over in Japan, it's Biohazard.
Yep.
In the States, Resident Evil. But I felt like there were too many fights where Jack came back or the mom came back.
That was the whole story. Well, you were hearing the story of this family the whole time.
And it's just like you'd fight Jack and you'd kill him. And then he'd come back and you'd kill him again. And then he'd come back with a chainsaw and you'd kill him and take the chainsaw. And then he'd come back and I'm like, just give us another character then. If you want to give us that many new boss
If you have
fights.
have more hillbilly family members. You can have a whole clan if you wanted.
Right. I got a little tired.
4 people?
Yeah.
It was like the son. No, it was just the 3 in the house and then the main bad guy.
Yeah, the grandma.
The grandma.
The
That's
grandma
right.
type that
You just sat there. That was
weird.
And
spoilers coming up.
Yeah.
We don't want to so pause the episode now if you don't want spoilers.
Yeah. The thing with Resident Evil 7, it was a far shorter game because of the virtual reality. It was about, I think, 8 to 12 hours.
Yeah, it was short.
The thing is why it's, for me, it's straight. And they had to set it like this because of the virtual reality experience. You're in a you're on this family's property in, swamp country, Louisiana, sort of. And you're stuck on this property. So you can't leave. There's the house, a greenhouse, shed.
Yeah.
You can go a little bit out, but it's confining because it has to be.
Yeah.
I think they could have done another VR experience. I don't know how well it would have looked, though, if they had set it in Raccoon City or put it in the labs. Just put it in the labs under Raccoon City so it can still be confining and you're trapped inside somewhere.
And there was a good amount, like a good balance of like the gross out stuff and the somebody's chasing me type.
There were literally moments where I was like, I do not want to crawl into this hole. I know I have to.
Right.
I know I have to, but I don't want to. And that was the first time I've ever been like, oh God, I don't want to do this. And I'm telling you, if anybody plays it, you have to play it on virtual reality. It's a good game otherwise. But
Sure.
with the VR, it's meant for it.
I've never played it in VR.
Come on over. We'll play it.
Next time I'm over, seriously, I'd love to check it out.
It's very, very good, especially for a very early on. Because I still consider virtual reality very early on.
Oh, absolutely.
A horror game for running so well, too. And it was the aiming of it. You had to aim your gun. I mean, it was very particular.
So now let's move into, I guess it's still kind of the present. But the Resident Evil 2 remake
just came out,
which there's not a whole ton to say about it, I guess, but the big thing is that they made it into this third person over the shoulder, but the camera can actually move now.
It's Resident Evil 4 camera in 2.
Essentially, yeah.
So does that change the puzzles? It would have to.
It would have to. I haven't played. It's been so long since I've played. Wow, did you hear my note? It's been so long. It's been so long since I've played 2, and I haven't had the pleasure of playing the remake yet.
Nah, neither have I.
But I've watched a lot of gameplay of it. If you guys like somewhat raunchy YouTube channels, I mean, they just curse a lot, but Super Mega did a playthrough of it, and the one thing that looks so terrifying is they amped up Mr. X. Yeah, they gave his footsteps this like gravitas where you could hear him from the next room over, and you just hear boom, boom, and like when he noticed you, it would boom, boom, boom. Like you would hear him like pick up his gait and start to come at you. And I was watching a comedy video because somebody made a mod where anytime Mr. X is nearby, it plays X gon' give it to you.
Oh, yeah, yes. I saw that. And the door opens, he punches X gon' give it to you.
And they made one where it's like Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, I saw that one.
So
very frightening.
There have been some hilarious mods to it, but even during those comedic videos where they were playing those mods, there was a scene where I heard his footsteps speeding up. I got like a chill just thinking about it. And you can hear it right behind you. And they recorded it in stereo. And I got like this tense. I was sitting at my desk at work,
when a cat
listening
arches
to
its
it.
back, like,
yeah. Maybe I shouldn't be watching Resident Evil videos at work, but it was more of a listen. But
Zach gets fired.
Yeah. Next week, I'm looking for a job.
This podcast is full time.
Right. Exactly.
We'll be releasing 3 episodes a week. And that's the thing too. Like as a new homeowner. And when I had some time off in between jobs, I was a graceful way of saying unemployed.
Yeah.
But there are times when you're alone, or luckily I had Castor with me, but I'm like, what if I just heard footsteps upstairs?
Yeah.
What if I just heard someone cough in my basement? That's that you can't. And like I said in Resident Evil 4, when you'd hear the chainsaw.
Right.
And it's that same Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You hear that scream and you don't even know what it is.
Or they'd play the music.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, hell.
Yeah.
It's like when you're walking down a hallway in any other video game and you see a medikit right outside the door. You're like, well, something's right. Well, I know I'm about to fight something. But it's just, they know what they're doing in these games. And they're now, I think, with these like the heavy footsteps, you're not even in the same room with them. And we're going to frighten you even that much more.
And they let you know basically that Mr. X is walking toward you at all times.
Indestructible.
Yeah.
Basically.
Can't take him down.
Most of the game.
I mean, there are some boss fights with him, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's basically Michael Myers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You can take him down, but he's coming back.
And I think it's almost scarier that you have almost a radar of where he's at. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I'd almost not want to know. I'd like, just attack, just kill me. Just kill me right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. It'd be less
If you're
scary.
gonna hit me. Yeah.
And that's why I want to play that Alien Isolation game, because I've heard that that's like really good as far as building up that type of suspense.
We are going to do an Alien episode, but speaking of games that should be ported to VR, or a game like that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Mamma jamma, that would be frightening.
So they had this remake of 2. I don't know that I guess this is kind of getting into the future of the franchise a little bit now. I don't know if they have plans for anything else right now, do they?
I haven't heard anything. This was a very recent release, like I said, within the last couple months, this game's come out. I have a question. Do you think they amped up Mr. X because it's like, well, we took this game, an old, Resident Evil 2, an old PlayStation 1 game, brought it, 20 years later, have now brought it Do you think at first the port they're like, this isn't a challenge? They're like, we have to make him that much scare. I mean, you're amping up graphics and sound. Always is gonna, there's gonna be a sound designer like, guys, we could have his footsteps.
But I mean, I guess they had to have made him a little bit tougher,
more of a challenge,
and they had to. I think the speed at which your character moves is different as well.
Yeah.
And because of the control of the camera, they probably made him a little bit more powerful to compensate for that.
Because I'm wondering if the other zombies are probably amped up as well. With that, they'd have to match your movement and stuff.
Also, after a quick Google search, apparently Resident Evil 8 development is quote unquote already in motion.
Oh, I believe it. They probably had that before 7 was done. You know,
I'm just wondering where they're gonna go with this from now on. You know. I gotta say, the ending of 7 was really disappointing.
It was. By the end of 7, you start finding out all the true story of this little girl who's infected, and you're like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about this at all.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just got to get through this annoying ship. There's this big
worst
busted
level.
Ship
That was the one thing.
It's really aggravating, especially for the end. And you have to keep. There's a part you go right back through it again, like in a memory.
Yeah.
It's really annoying. Yeah.
It's just like same thing over and over again with worse guns.
It's like a water temple right at the end of the game.
Oh no.
I know, but. Yeah, RE8. We'll kind of get, I guess, into the future of the franchise a little bit.
I mean, what would you want to see from the 8th Resident
More
Evil?
VR.
You think so?
Make it a full VR port or not. You know, like 7 was. You can play either or. Absolutely. I think it bums me out when I see a major game do a major release and then completely abort VR afterwards. I think it was astounding, and I think it could be even better.
Yeah,
I think it could just be even better, longer. I don't want to see a multiplayer Resident Evil game ever again.
I'm torn on it.
Like I said, if you have co-op, let them jump in. You don't need them necessarily.
What I would love to see, and I don't know if we're going to get this because it strays a little bit. As always, I think it could be cool to see it in this big open world. One or two other people in your team.
Not scary.
But it could be. I mean, if they put you in
Raccoon City,
like in Raccoon City,
it out. And into the lab as well.
All of the buildings are open with their own unique challenges.
That could be scary.
And give us a Mr. X.
Just the more people you add playing with you, easier
the less
it is.
scary.
I mean, you amp up the zombie amount, but then you have 4 other guys with assault rifles.
Even if it wasn't multiplayer, like I think having that big map and give it a Mr. X type character,
the ability to call in Umbrella Corp and like they can do an airstrike or something, or they can firebomb.
They're kind of the opposite side though, right? Like
unless you were playing from their aspect, the game could take place from your perspective. Like there's the one where you play as I think Wesker. It starts out. I don't know which one. It's an earlier one, but you start out as the team in the woods outside Raccoon City, and they're going into the city.
I don't know. I think that there are a lot of ways that you could amp that up. Like I was saying, like bring in not necessarily Mr. X, but a type of character where in a certain part of the map you are being followed. In another part of the map, there's like environmental hazards that are pushing you towards a certain direction.
How do you feel about turning it slightly closer towards? Is that Days Gone game? And then there's the Left 4 Dead. A classic, which is swarming.
That might be too far.
Because that's the same thing. I think it's called Days Gone. It's not out yet.
Yeah,
but they keep showing, and it's that same
like
swarm mentality.
Zombies,
like World War Z style, where they can run, which I love. I love it when you start seeing runners and stuff like that. It makes it far more challenging.
It doesn't make it survival horror in my mind. It changes it to like an action survival game.
Would you like to see them add, if they did do an open world, we would like to see some more crafting. There is crafting in the games already. You can make your meds, you can make your ammunition, but I think if we could start crafting weaponry, get a vehicle
cool
crafted.
If you were finally not somebody, I mean, I guess you're kind of a nobody in 7, but if you were just a random civilian caught up in this and you had to survive and craft and
there's always the one big problem, and even in Resident Evil 7 I had it, when you are a random civilian with like literally no training, there's always a moment or two in the games where like there's no way I, as a regular civilian in this, crawling through the scary water hole, sorry, looks like I'm not finding my lost girlfriend, I guess. Well, it's like I'm turning around.
Make it somebody who's had a background, ex-military, ex-cop, you know what I mean?
Make him a security. Well, that's why Far Cry 5 I loved. You were a sheriff deputy.
Right.
Whereas in 4, you're a punk kid on vacation.
And your friends
now you
kidnapped.
can suddenly Deadeye with a gun and you
Right.
can heal yourself like Rambo.
Yeah.
There's got to be some semblance. I mean,
Right.
even if they made that character saying like he's all about survival, he goes on hikes for weeks on his own, make him that
Right.
character, sure. But like when you're literally a college student partying with your friends and then you get caught up in all this,
Right.
I like if you handed me an assault rifle right now, or a sniper rifle or something, a real one, I don't know if I could tell you if I would be able to load it properly and take the safe, like
Right.
efficiently and quickly reload it like you do in a video game. Like you're suddenly able to do.
And I mean, I guess I'm okay suspending my disbelief with that enough, as long as there's a skill tree of some sort where it's like, hey, you've used enough guns, now
Yes.
you're getting it.
Yep,
You
I
know,
like that.
Or you've.
Your accuracy improves, your rate of fire improves.
I would
your
even be
reload
okay
speed.
with. Actually, never mind. I was gonna say I'd be okay with kind of a what was that? The free running zombie game. It wasn't Dead Island. It was something with night. Dying Light. Dying Light.
Well, there was the vacation one, Dead Island.
That was Dead Island. Yeah,
Dying Light.
Yeah. I was gonna say see some free running, but I don't think that would fit for Resident Evil.
I was gonna ask, do you want 8 to be first person or third person?
First.
Okay.
I think first.
Okay. Yeah. Then that's the thing too. It's like you have to make a character maybe less military training then.
Right.
The guns, the weaponry, you can't just be an ace. Like if Leon was a first person shooter, I'd be like, oh, this is a Call of Duty game. Like he's trained in weapons, you know. So yeah, I think it's tough. They wowed me with doing a VR game. They gotta step it up. It's a tough franchise. It's a tough genre to be in. It's like Walking Dead, the show.
Right.
I stopped watching that maybe in the third season because it's just now zombies have become literally they're just outside white noise.
Right.
And we're fighting tribes, which is very interesting. I love the idea of infighting and what is the biggest threat? Another human being. Yeah. Not a brainless monster. Of course, the most dangerous monster or animal in the world is a human being.
Right.
Because of our sick brains.
Right.
And necessity. But like, there's an idea for 8 years in the future. Post-apocalyptic world has taken place. Let's see factions. Let's see a world post-zombies. Or, well, like, they're still clearly inhabiting.
Like Stars or whoever's fighting them off has failed.
And they can talk about, like, man, like the plot of RE7 could have been 10 years ago. Or Resident Evil 4 could have been 10 years ago or whatever. Right. And they can say, you can be like, we thought that they would deteriorate. That whatever Umbrella Corp put in them, this is not, they're not falling apart. This is a world of zombies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's... I mean, not to have a short-ish. I guess it's not really too short of an episode, but not to have a short episode. But that kind of wraps up Resident Evil for us, guys.
There's rumor of a show. Was there a Netflix? I thought I heard a live action show coming down the pipe. I would like to see that. That could be interesting. For sure. But the thing is, then it's another Walking Dead. I don't think you can have another zombie show. It's
got to wait a little bit, I think.
Man, it's tough. They kind of cornered that market, and then I don't think any more movies are in the pipe. Yeah, I heard she's done. I think Mila Jovovich, because she's the executive producer.
She's like 70 now.
No, jeez. The crazy thing is with her, she's been in movies forever. Forever.
Yeah, she has.
Like, even one of her first movies was Dazed and Confused. People don't realize. You're like, whoa, that's the
Is she the same girl that... What was that German movie, Run Lola Run? Is she the same girl in that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody's in that. Like major. I remember watching that in a film class though.
Yeah, it was a good movie
for editing and stuff. Yeah, it was really neat.
Super good.
But yeah, with Resident Evil, I think I'd love it. Of course, another
and obviously
game.
We can always dive in deeper. We could do a whole episode on the first game alone. But
maybe I don't think Capcom has the wherewithal to do like a mobile game or anything like that to coincide like how we had talked about Fallout sort of. But
it wouldn't be scary.
It wouldn't be good. It wouldn't. Yeah. Well, what would be the point of it? You know, it would be, if it would coincide with the new game. But yeah, I'd like to see more. Let's go back. I'd like to see the Umbrella Corporation. You see, 7 was almost trying to make its own new story. Yeah. There was very little mention of Umbrella where you're like looking for, you're like, well, clearly this girl was infected by somebody and who did it? A pharmaceutical corporation. Like, can we just quit beating around the bush? Right. Like, you don't have to fully reboot the story. But let's get rid of I would like to get rid of the supernatural humans like Albert Wesker. I don't need a Superman.
I could even do a
charging
7
around.
prequel where we play as the hillbilly family before they got infected.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
You know what I mean?
Maybe they're
Like-
trying to fight it off. I'd like to no, but I'd like to fight zombies again.
Yeah, I agree.
Like hordes of zombies, and that's the one thing you were missing in 7 because there are virtual reality games for that, for fighting hordes of zombies, and this isn't that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I hope we get one soon. And
Yeah, me too.
yeah,
Me too. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. It means the world to us. And it has been a crazy week. Sorry about the shift of episode. That's
slight episode shift. It's still coming. Fallout is in the pipe, but we want to make sure Gijon's here for it.
Yeah,
so he was so excellent.
Yeah, he knew so much about it. But and if you guys can just keep rating us on iTunes and wherever you guys listen, it's
Tell your friends.
tell your friends.
We just got emails from a couple an old friend of mine that I've known since elementary school. He's loving the show. Shout out to John Truxas. He's been listening to the show. He wants us to do Final Fantasy, so that'll be coming down the pipe for sure.
That's a big one.
Definitely on our list. But yeah, it's spreading. Just tell all your friends, tell your family, share, subscribe. It's great.
Yeah, and I'm super looking forward to seeing you guys next week. I know, and we also have some fun kind of announcements coming up. We're gonna have some cool stuff going on Instagram here in the next month or so.
I think we might have the mini episode up next week.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
along with a regular episode on Friday, but the mini episode will probably come out on either a Wednesday or Thursday, depending.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So keep an eye out for that, and more giveaways, all that good stuff.
Yes.
You guys rock, and we will see you next time.
Catch you later. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. The next franchise we'll be unpacking is Jurassic Park. But in the meantime, feel free to drop us a line with any questions, comments, or future episodes at franchiseunpacked@gmail.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. And be sure to share so we can keep these episodes coming your way. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.